Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. It's a Monday, a regular day for us, but for you, I suppose if you're not one of the emergency services, fire brigade, police, and all those people, you actually are chilling at home and watching this. So it's good to have you. Labor Day, we have a holiday for Labor Day. That's today, but Labor, as you know, was on Saturday. And in Nigeria, we usually plonk on an extra day if anything happens between Saturday and Sunday. So, labor is the big deal. Labor is the big issue. And the theme this year in Nigeria was COVID-19 social and economic crisis, because it has indeed been that. COVID-19 social and economic crisis, challenges for what? Decent jobs and social protection, as well as people's welfare. Quite a mouthful, but you can see where all of this is going, because COVID-19, it really has been a big shaker in the labor world across the world. And so our section here in Nigeria, there's a sense. My guest, first of all, is Comrade Abiodun Aladeton, who is Secretary of the TUC, Trade Union Congress, Lagos State Council. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, sir.
Indeed, our pleasure. And we'll also be having our friend, Mr. Peter Esele, well, I should say Comrade Peter Esele, former president of TUC and former president of Pengasin. He'll join us as soon as he can. But we were just saying, Comrade Abiodun, that COVID has really, these are different times. Yeah. We've been managing it as best as we can, but things are probably going to be different a bit. And that's why that mouthful of a theme, challenges for decent jobs and in society and protection, as well as people's welfare. COVID-19 really impacts this, because is there a worry that, first of all, let me go to what I think is the highlight of the headliner of the whole labor movement. The minimum wage that has been signed into law, first by the National Assembly and then by the President, it's not been observed by every state. In fact, I think there are something like 11 states or so that have complied. That are not complying. Lagos State is one of those that have complied. In fact, in the case of Lagos State, it has gone beyond the minimum wage, as we were discussing before coming on. Lagos State actually pays more than 30,000. And the minimum wage thing is that you shall not pay anybody less than that. Yeah. And maybe a lot of people don't know it. No sector is exempt from this. The private sector, it doesn't matter where you are, you must fall under this. But governors are not able to completely comply. So much so that the Minister of Labor, Dr. Chris Ngige, has threatened that he might actually be taking states to court. Even if governors have immunity, he could go and start from other areas within the state. You saw it all there. Yeah. But tell me about Lagos, because let's start with that good story. Lagos, as you said, is it in full compliance? Has it complied in full?
Yeah, I think it is on record that when the minimum wage law was signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari, that was in 2019, April precisely, I think Lagos State is the first state in Nigeria to actually comply with that implementation. And to make it even more beautiful, the state government did not just implement the 30,000, it actually went beyond the 30,000 benchmark. In the Lagos State Public Service, the lowest payable amount today is 35,000 naira. So that's why when other states are actually, complaining of some states yet to even implement the 18,000 naira minimum wage, which Lagos was also the first to implement as at that time. So Lagos State has actually implemented since, I think, from our record, November 2019, and the arrears were also actually paid. Because the agreement organized labor entered as at that time was that, okay, you're going to pay 3 months arrears, and the state government agreed to that. And those arrears were actually spread for about 3 months, and workers, they've all received those arrears. So it's not just an issue of maybe a government is not prioritizing the welfare of the workforce. I think we can say it authoritatively that the Lagos State administration has actually done very well when it comes to welfare of the workforce. And I think this was actually demonstrated on that day during the Labor Day celebration at the Mobolaji Johnson Arena. Because for those who were there, you listen to some of the welfare packages. Because the truth is this, as organized labor in Lagos State, what we've done, even as TUC, what we've done so far is that the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic, it has an adverse effect in the world of work. But one thing we've seen so far, particularly with the Lagos State government, is that there was a particular point in time when the government said level 14 officers from level 14 to level 1 should work from home. People expressed some fear, some apprehensions, thinking that probably that may lead to layoff. But the government came out clear on that no, work from home, I will not retrench, I will not disengage anybody. I think these are things that we as organized labor, we must actually commend, because so far so good. Now I think they are already resuming. Within that long period of time, they were getting their salary as and when due. And I think another area we must also stress is that, I don't know about any other state, but I know for Lagos, there is a specific date that workers get their salaries. There is a specific day, I think 23rd, 24th of every month. I don't even think federal does that. So you see workers, once the time is ripe, they get their alert, and everybody, even the pension deductions, because salary has several components. You know, the talk of cooperative, you talk of union deduction, you talk of pension deductions. So a lot of states in Nigeria that haven't yet to comply with the minimum wage, if you go through their record, some of them only pay the net pay. They don't pay deductions. Some of them are owing pension deductions for many years. But I think we don't have such a situation in our hand. Even on Workers' Day, which is May 1st, we got the deduction for the month of April. You can imagine that. So I want to believe that it cannot be better than what we've seen so far. People will be amazed that a labor leader may be talking more positively about government. But the fact remains that when you see a government that is actually doing well, I think they deserve to be commended. And if there are areas you think they are not doing well, then I think you just have to come out and tell them the truth. And I think that's what those in power, that's what they really need. You don't just come there and start singing praises of people who are not doing anything. But when they do well, commend them. When they're not doing well, you actually bring their attention to a true means that are permissible by the law. So I think in Lagos State so far. And if you're also aware, during the May Day, the governor graciously gave to us what will be known as Workers' Village. The Workers' Village is a scheme that the labor movement have been pushing in Lagos. And we came to that point because we realized that COVID-19 has several effects. For example, the purchasing power of the Naira is gradually reducing. There are inflations everywhere. You know, the cost of transportation moving from one place to the other is soaring on a daily basis. So we felt that instead of coming out every year or every 4 years or 5 years agitating for an increase in salary, we felt as organized labor that the time has actually come to start addressing some of those issues that are actually eroding the value of the Naira of an average worker. And one of those areas is the issue of housing. So we approached the state government and said, come, the housing burden on workers in Lagos is very, very huge. By the time you take the rent component and compare to what people pay as rent in Lagos, you discover that it is insignificant. So we approached the state government and said, come, you must provide land so that we can engage, you know, developers and whatever, let them build these houses so that it will be affordable for workers. Because what we have presently, some of the housing scheme you see, by the time you hear the prices, you know that even somebody should work for 35 years, that person cannot afford it. And the state government graciously approved several hectares of land, which I'm going to give you the details. In Ayobo, for example, the state government gave us 8.8 hectares of land along Ayobo, Ishefun Road, for a workers' village, strictly for civil servants. The state government also, for contributors of National Housing Fund, graciously approved another 10 hectares of land for all the contributors of NHF, which is also for workers in the public service. So, you know, with this kind of approval, you can have about 1,000 or 1,500, 2,000 housing units that will be built and distributed to worker on its merit. And also, it will interest everybody to also know that, you know, the state government, there are usually housing schemes they build. Before now, every housing scheme of the state government, 10% of those schemes go straight to workers.
Dedicated to workers.
But we as organized labor, we felt that we can actually ask for more, just like Oliver Twist. We also approached the state government and said, come, for every 1,000 houses you built, only 100 is being a mark for workers. And we said, we felt that this portion is too small because labor creates the wealth. And we were able to convince the government. They graciously also increased that percentage from 10% to 20%, which now means that before now, out of 1,000 houses, they give workers 100. Presently now, for every 1,000 housing unit, workers get 200. Those 200 houses does not come just like that. There is a 40% rebate for workers. So if, for example, I'm using for example, they say the house cost about 10 million. If that, let's say the 20% that will be a mark for workers, workers are going to have 40% rebate on those houses, which means that for every house they sell for 10 million, workers will definitely pay 6 million. So these are some of the welfare packages that, you know, the state government, you know, when we approach them, you convince them through superior logical argument, you have a government that listens. So these are some of the welfare packages as graciously announced by the governor of Lagos State during the May Day celebration. And that's why if you follow the news after the May Day, by the time you hear certain states saying certain governor appeal to workers that better days ahead, one governor said workers should exercise patience, that they will get their salary. The report about that of Lagos State was a bumper harvest for workers in Lagos State. So I think it's a government that is doing well.
Indeed.
We must commend them.
I imagine that all the Lagos State people out there, starting from the governor down to you know, just about everybody in government in Lagos State, especially Mr. Muri-Okonla, head of service, who called in to our program when we were talking about that was a different thing. It was about Jusun. You know, when we're talking about them, he had called in and had said that there's no way you can compare when it comes to labor, a Lagos State with any other state in the federation. And here you are saying what you're saying. In fact, as you said it's a bit of a something strange to hear labor speak in such glowing terms about government, working for labor. And I understand that Mr. Peter Esele, former President TUC, and as well as Pengerson, has been able to join us. Good morning, Comrade Peter Esele. Good morning. I guess one should...
Good morning, Yori.
I wonder, perhaps your phone is muted a bit. You can hear me, but...
I can hear you. I can hear you.
You can hear me, but I can see a sign. I can see a symbol on there that's showing that your phone is maybe muted. But if you can hear me, it's just that I also want to be able to hear what you say back, and we can't for some reason.
I can hear you.
I'm just waiting for the guys in control to tell me that they can hear. If you guys can hear him upstairs, that's something. I can still see that troublesome sign there showing that your speaker is not operational. So we'll try and sort that out. Okay, we'll try and sort that out. And then we'll be straight back to Comrade Esele. But for the moment, we're just sorting that out. Yeah. I was talking about Judiciary Staff Workers Union. Are you able to speak on that at all? Because it's part of labor and they're also part of this. Again, that's a work in progress, and you've already shown the labor landscape of Lagos, so there's probably absolutely no reason why they shouldn't also get joy. Lagos it's like a labor paradise from everything that you've said, for which people in Lagos State, especially all the officials, are going to be justifiably proud. But it's not like that all over the country.
Yes.
And that's one of the challenges. That's what I wanted Comrade Peter Esele to talk about, but we still have our technical issues with him. I don't know. We just can't hear.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Now we can hear. I was just able to hear you. Okay. And that symbol is still there, so it doesn't matter. The important thing is that I can hear you now. Now, good morning to you, Comrade Peter Esele, former President TUC and Pengasin. These Labor Day this year, we're saying that it has a mouthful of a title, of a theme, but we sort of understand it. COVID-19 social and economic crisis, because that is indeed what COVID-19 has become. Now, challenges for decent jobs, social protection, and people's welfare. We've just been hearing very glowing reports about Lagos State. Lagos might not be the only one, but Lagos State says it is far ahead and above all other efforts in the country when it comes to trying their best to keep their workers happy. Would you like to comment on what still needs to be done to catch up, at least to the example Lagos State is giving right here? Comrade Esele.
Yeah, I think first let me congratulate the TUC secretary for job well done for what they have been doing in Lagos. Lagos have always been more of a flagship, even when 18,000 naira minimum wage during negotiation, even Lagos offered to pay. The recommendation Lagos made was even higher than 18,000 naira at that time. So when 18,000 naira was approved, from the day it was approved, Lagos was also the first state to go ahead and pay. So Lagos has a track record of being labor friendly. So kudos to all the governors from Tinubu to Fashola, Ambode, and now Sanwo-Olu, who has also continued to have Lagos move in that trajectory. Then the other aspect of it, which comes from the national, other states are quite disappointing, the fillers that won't get from other states. We even have others who now want to pay the 18,000 naira, who have not been paying 18,000 naira. But what I always say is the law is the law. It's been negotiated, and the law says minimum wage is 30,000 naira. So all the states are expected to pay. And then when you also talk about COVID-19, COVID-19 has changed how we work. COVID-19 has also revealed a whole lot of challenges that the vulnerables face, especially not just the workers alone. You also have to look at our youth, you also look at the women, and you also look at the men who are elderly, even our pensioners. Pensioners don't get paid pension. Recently, I met a police officer who is retired, who is telling me the take-home pay is 10,000. That's what they collect as pension. Ordinarily, once you say minimum wage, nobody, whether a pensioner or nobody should earn below 30,000. Whether, as far as you're a pensioner earning 2,000, once the minimum wage is 30,000, that is what you should earn. So the challenges are enormous, and the road doesn't look too good.
Staying with you, Peter, as you know, the Minister of Labour was threatening that, look, as you've just said, you can't negotiate the minimum wage. He said some people are trying to do that, but you can't. It's the law. You cannot pay anything less than 30. You go ahead and pay more, as Lagos has done, for example, if you can and if you want, but you cannot go below 30,000. But reportedly, some governments are trying to negotiate, the 30,000 naira down simply because, it's not convenient. The minister, in speaking and threatening to sue, he enumerated some states, and you know those states right now. So, what's this whole attitude? It's law. It's the law, and shouldn't it be a sort of a first charge that, look, we don't have any wiggle room here. We must be seen to be law-abiding and compliant with the law. How come we still have this situation in 2021 where some governors are trying to do the improbable thing of trying to negotiate how they will comply with the law?
And that's one of the major things that we are facing. You may look at our society and look at the insecurity, welfare. You find out that one of the things that we are facing is that you have governors and you have those in power, those in authority, who feels that they are the authority. Those who we have elected, who are supposed to serve the people, now think that they are the masters of the people. So therefore, what they are doing is that the law doesn't matter. So they themselves are not saying, I am the law, in quote, just like a governor faces the law. If you have a governor negotiating the law, that means the governor is the law, so he's above the law. I don't think it's something we should even be talking about. Unfortunately, even some of those states that have not paid are also from the ruling party. So if your president have already signed, and I know the process of negotiating minimum wage is taking Lagos State, for example, I'm using Lagos as an example, would have sent in its own paper, sent in a memo to say this is how much we can pay. So you are going to have the entire 36 states government sending in what they can pay. And then the negotiation will not take place because labor started from about 56 to 60,000 naira. So it is the process of that negotiation that you now arrive at 30,000 naira. So, and for the minister to come out and say he's ready to sue those who are not ready to pay, that tells you how frustrated the minister himself is, because the minister knows the various challenges and the various processes that happened. And so what you have now is that you have employer, employee, and the union, what we call a tripartite, sitting down together for over a period of time. And you already don't forget, this minimum wage of 30,000 naira is 5 years late. The last time we had this negotiation was in 2010 when it was moved to 18,000. And you are supposed to have a negotiation every 5 years. You are supposed to look at minimum wage every 5 years. So if you look at 2010, then by 2015, that's when we should be talking about this 30,000 naira. So right now we should be on the second stage of saying, okay, if we are paying 30 now, we should be moving above 30. And I can't stop. I will not stop talking about it. 18,000 naira was $120 in 2010. 30,000 naira right now is $75. So which invariably means the quantum leap of saying 30,000 naira that you have compared to 18,000 naira, your 18,000 naira had more value than the 30,000 naira that they are paying right now, that the governors are up in arms against. So it's a huge challenge. And what the governors are also missing here is that if you show you have no respect for the law, there is one 10-year-old who is watching you, there's a 15-year-old, there's a 25-year-old who is watching you, who also withdraws strength from that the law doesn't matter. If the governor can do whatever he likes, in his own little paradise, he can also take the laws into his hands. And this is how society fails.
Indeed. Indeed. And the minister, he enumerated some states. He said, well, 3 states and the FCT, he said, are making partial payments, but that those statements that are having real difficulties include Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, Nasarawa, Anambra, Benue, Ekiti, Kogi, Plateau, Imo, Nasarawa, Oshun, and Taraba, not to forget Bauchi, Oyo, Yobe, and Kebbi. So those states are having problems, and no doubt must be working about it. But let me just ask Comrade Abiodun in studio here another question that is coming out of the COVID-19 social and economic crisis, which is the theme for NLC, challenges for decent job and social protection. Because of this very social protection, social protection, we are supposed to have a certain attitude towards COVID, to protect ourselves and our society. But at least in Lagos here and perhaps in other parts of the country, people are carrying on largely as if it isn't that much of an emergency anymore. Lagos State and maybe some other states also had the experiment of joining other areas of the world in saying workers stay at home. Some workers stay at home and work from home. Now, people are thinking that we won't, in the fullness of time, we won't actually have gone back to the normal that we used to know. There's going to be a new normal, because a lot of jobs that just because that is the way it had always been done, had always got in a car or got in a bus and headed for the office in order to achieve a day's work. Some work, in fact a lot of work, can be done remotely. Now, Is this a concern to labor? Because at the end of the day, labor is worried. Labor usually is concerned when you bring about any new device, or, you know, sometimes it's just a matter of inventions that takes people out of the workforce. But with the reality of COVID-19 and the social and economic crisis that it is causing, have you thought about this?
Yeah, I think one thing we've done, you know, at the peak of the pandemic as TUC in Lagos State, I think we quickly, you know, organized a program known as a Labor Summit. Though we didn't have the opportunity of meeting physically, it was an online program where we engage several stakeholders, because this thing is new to everybody, and we know definitely it's going to give birth to certain challenges. So we engaged some stakeholders from Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, TUC organized it, and I think we have people from ILO representative, I think the regional coordinator. We also had some people from the private sector as well as NECA. So, you know, certain issues were actually highlighted during that conversation. You know, the truth is that COVID-19 has actually impacted negatively on the world of work. And one thing, you know, one thing with the employer is that employer will do anything possible to actually remain in business. And some of those things they've done so far is that, one, we notice the high rate of the abuse of workers' rights in workplace. We equally notice that the level of engagement with the trade unions in those sectors was actually on the low side. And we equally observed that at the peak of that crisis, employers started using things like redundancy, half-pay salary. They started implementing certain shift system that they will ask you to stay at home for 2 weeks. Some they ask you to stay for 1 month, all in the aim of cutting costs. So, you know, this has actually created a lot of tension in the system. And for the manufacturers' angle, when we engage them, they said now the cost of doing business is on the high side, that you have increase in tariff, increase in prices of everything, and that the only way they can remain in business is for government to also give what we know as the bailout fund. And they said this bailout fund should be given on the basis of jobs that will be created and jobs that will be retained. Not that you just give out bailout fund on haphazard basis. So they are also disturbed that if they can have something from the government to actually assist the private sector, because the truth is, during this crisis, the private sector will play a significant role if we are trying to recover the economy. So, you know, the different sectors with their own, you know, ideas and whatever. But what we've noticed as labor is that, despite the fact that workers are at the forefront of this pandemic, battling this pandemic so that everybody can be safe, it will also interest everybody to know that it is these same workers who are also at the receiving end of this whole crisis, because you now find some of them laid off. And it's very unfortunate that we have employers thinking about that at this particular time because of the security crisis that we already have in Nigeria. Because the situation is, if you lay off more workers to add to the unemployed population we already have in Nigeria, I think it's going to generate huge security concern and challenges for the country. So it is on the basis of that we actually try to engage government and try to engage even some of these employers on the need for them to show that understanding. You see, certain workers, they feel if you tell them to come to work, the workers are reasonable people. They know that, fine, the level of production has dropped as a result of this effect. You know, they are willing to cooperate with the management. They are willing to adapt to all kinds of situations so that, you know, they keep their job. And also we notice that some of them, because of the new normal, you know, we equally engage employers so that you begin to train your workers so that they can cope with this new normal. And I think the state government too, Lagos State precisely. Why I'm saying that is because that's the sector where I operate. I actually work with the Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria. So I can speak on those things authoritatively. So I know our members, they've been training them on how to, you know, adapt to some of these changes. Because people have this belief that with the coming of technology and all that, that it will definitely lead to layoff of workers. But from some of our findings, we've even discovered that technology has even created jobs. Okay. Because even before now, if you notice, before the breakthrough in the telecommunication sector, people felt that, no, when you have telephone, instead of you to send somebody to go and deliver something, somebody would just bring it, you know, through mail or whatever, you get those things delivered. They felt it was a threat to job. But when the telecommunication came, it even created a lot of jobs, even in engineering and other parts. So technology is not something which another business ideas too will definitely come up. So technology is not even a threat in any way. If you actually work with technology, it helps you to solve your problem, and it also gives you new and better opportunities.
Okay, Comrade Esele, yeah, whereas I hear what Comrade Aladiton is saying, government is the biggest employer of labor, and so they have to be, we have to be very careful about that area. The private sector, people who are working for themselves, you know, all sorts of, you know, businesses that sort of are fending for themselves, they will be okay at the end of the day, as because we have a different setup from what's going on around the world, where certain category of private sector workers, restaurateurs, they are not allowed to work in the interest of safety. But we don't have those constraints because we probably don't have the emergencies that they have. I was just reading or watching the news, foreign news, and I see that there are countries that are gently allowing people to come around in the evening to some pubs, to some restaurants. Now, in Nigeria here, where labor is the biggest employer of labor, what do you think all of this holds in store for workers? Because as we're just talking about the theme of technology, you know, getting more efficient and doing a lot of work that perhaps people have been done. Are you also apprehensive, even though I take on board what Comrade Alade has said, that, well, technology sometimes brings about other jobs, but the whole matter about they're now considering that, do we actually need to be in the office? In the West, they're considering that in the West. Do we actually need to be in the office or on site for all jobs? They are discovering that perhaps not. How say you, sir?
Yes, if you look at it, most times people are always afraid of technology. You know, people are always afraid of change. And most times, change is always good for everyone. When technology comes up, in the short term, you may look as if the whole thing is bleak. But you find out that in the long term, it's always in the best interest of everyone. Now, let's take, for example, I'm talking to you now from my study. Ordinarily, in the past, you will call me and I will have to drive all the way from where I am to where you are, to your studio, which will take me over an hour. So if you look at it now, we are able to use technology now to communicate, and then I can do so many things instead of having to get myself stuck in the traffic. So that is also one of the advantages of technology. And then you also have a lot of people working from home. So there are a lot of technology companies, a lot of companies that I know, even the IOCs, the oil companies, or most members of PENCASI that I know, they all work from home. Has that reduced productivity? No, it has not. And what you have instead is that they are able to find what I'll call the work-life balance. The only challenge that was coming up a while, some of them were saying, is that on one hand, they are enjoying it because they have more time for family, they can see their kids. On the other hand, they also find out that they can just wake up 9 p.m. in the night and then they are going to their laptop. Ordinarily, this is something they would not have done.
Yes.
So now left for them to find the to find the balance. But if you look at it, there is no free lunch in life. There is always a price to pay for whatever comes up. So if you look at it, so many people are able to work from home. And if you take, for example, let me use Lagos as an example. So if you have 20% or 30% of your workforce working from home, you know what that will do for your economy. The traffic will be reduced. You have less cars on the road. It will be good for the environment. And then in this era of global warming that we're talking about. So I think the world of work has changed.
Indeed.
And it's not going to go back to the way it was before. So what workers need to do is also to adjust themselves, develop new skills so that they are not left behind.
Indeed. Okay, you know, Comrade Aladiton, we have to be careful with this concept because it's easy to get carried away and think that as many people as we would like are actually connected, digitally connected. Yeah. But because a lot of this working remotely, working from home, speaking with Comrade Esele, you know, it's all internet based. Yeah. It's nowhere near where it needs to be, and when we are able to work like this in the urban centers, that's really, when you come to think of it, the minority.
Yeah.
You know, the majority arguably is not as well connected as they can be. So that has to probably also be factored in when we're talking about this, so that we don't take just what is really an urban effect and transpose that onto the whole country, perhaps. Would you agree that we have to be careful?
I want to, say that, I know, to the best of my knowledge, there is no, it will be difficult to have a place in Nigeria presently where you don't even have people using handsets. So I know even when you go to villages, you still see people making calls, people browsing, So which shows that gradually, we're already getting.
Could I interrupt you for a moment, please? Because Mazi Okoroafo has called in from Arochukwu. Good morning, Mazi.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, I guess, in the studio and all in the sky.
Yeah.
Now, you see, and I guess in the studio, technology has come to stay. You also know that you can only steal the technology. You cannot transfer technology. There are certain things technology cannot do. But in form of injection, all this jab we take about COVID-19 jab, there's no way technology can do that. No, it's a human being. Now we see on the screen where the dummy goes out to drop food in the restaurant or hotel and to drop food of a guest. But the question now is this: in as much as we are speaking or we are attaching ourselves to the current technology in terms of anything we can talk of in this world, then we have to look into one. In Nigeria today, people are afraid to change into the modern system. In as much as they are afraid, because they are sure that if they enter such system, they'll just be unemployed. But the thing is this: I think that it's not able for mass production. Yes. But in terms of quality, it's not there. Check very well. All these things that we say we have been in the factory, they use this. When you say that there are some of them that are substandard. Let me give you an example. If some of these privileges we take, look at the quantity inside and look at the package, compare with the last one, what is in there. You start up to 1 spoon. Now, is that what it is? But we are sure the whole world are now approaching technology with a force instead of gradual process. And that was even in the media house that you are talking to somebody right now. There are certain things that somebody is talking to you, you'll be hearing him, but he will not hear you. He says, now, something has been distorted. Do we have such things or such elements to do what? To track such absent messages that the knowledge is not there. So we have to be very careful, to be gradual in terms of technology, because we must move forward with the trace of events, whether we like it or not. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant day in Lagos.
Thank you very much, Mazi, for calling in as well. Yeah, I take the point that Mazi is making, that government, quite frankly, has to do perhaps a bit more in terms of enabling a very broad-based connectivity. It is being done in other countries of Africa, where farmers, for example, are able to, take advantage of this, so many different ways to improve their seedlings, their yields, their practices, and that's what's going on in Nigeria. The Lagos State government, when it said at the time that certain people can work from home, it means that they had done an audit and seen that, look, it's just that this is the way we've always been doing it, but in an emergency, we can still stay as efficient with a certain portion of our staff working remotely. Yeah, at the end of the day, when it comes to manufacturing, as Mazi had said, there are some things that you can't do really remotely, so they're going to have to be factory hands. But that is the way that we probably have to sort of understand that this is going to go, because we're told that we're not going to go back to the old normal.
Definitely.
Following from this, we're not going to go back to the old normal. Something has happened, and we're not going to roll back. How this affects earning power, people having jobs, because we have we're still telling government that the unemployment rate is too high. We need you to do something about that. But the way this is all going, I don't know. It's one of those things that the experts are going to probably have to look at. So we have a fine balance between what can be done without, as it were, harming the whole labor force altogether.
Definitely.
You probably agree. So, Comrade Esele, we're in it. We're in. Yeah, I can see that Comrade Esele is still there.
Yeah.
The situation that we have on our hands, you probably have noticed as well that in Nigeria here, workers, and that's just about everybody, but workers have sort of taken something of a break from the intense urgency with which we viewed COVID-19. Look, workers, citizens, socialites, partygoers, we've all sort of resumed our normal, activities from before COVID. Now, the last thing we want, and God is still on our side, because I don't know how it is happening, but it does look that in our side of the world, we're not getting it as bad as we're seeing in Europe. Do you think we're beginning to get a little bit complacent? We're not masking up as we should. We're not maintaining social distancing as we should. All those things that scared us initially. We're not washing our hands as often as we can. And all of this is about the NLC theme of protection of people and their welfare. Do you think we're beginning to take a break a bit?
Yes, I think we are being complacent. Very, very, we are all getting back to normal. Yes, I watched yesterday when on the news, and I watched TBC, and when they were reporting on from Abuja to Lagos, and I noticed that there was no social distancing, and people were, the few ones who were wearing masks were wearing it on their jaw.
Yes.
Yeah, some few ones who were wearing masks were wearing it on their jaw. And it was the governor, governor of Lagos State, and then I noticed from the governor of Lagos State, everybody around them, they were all wearing masks. Yes, because the governor was talking, so the governor wasn't masked up, which was okay. But from my labor fraternity, from all of them I saw, they virtually were wearing the mask on the jaw. And from Abuja, the Minister of Labor also wore the mask in his mouth, but without covering his nose. And also I took note of all of that. And I noticed that these guys are taking these things for granted. Don't forget, India fared the same way. India has over a billion population. And at a particular time, they were being commended all over the world for the way they were managing it. And as I'm talking to you now, India is now the epicenter of COVID-19. They are running out of oxygen, exactly. And there are no bed space. India is worse off. Every day they are reporting deaths. And cremation is going on. They don't even have enough space for cremation. They are asking for the government to build more spaces for cremation. So where we are now is very, very, very dangerous, and we should not relent on our arms. I even went to some of the COVID-19 centers where people have to take vaccine, and sometimes you don't even see as much people there who want to take vaccine. So my appeal to the state government, Lagos state government, at least I would look at Lagos state government and say what the governor is doing is rather, I would say, is half full rather than half empty. In other parts of the country, I think we have completely dropped our guard. Please, let's continue to talk about it. Let's continue to inform people. Let's let them know how important it is to wear this mask.
Yeah.
Even if you have taken your own vaccine, I have, because I believe I should I should be vaccinated. And I don't think there's anything bad about it. It's not changing my DNA. And all of the noise being made about it, I don't think it's true. Science has proven that vaccine is safe. So we should all go out there and take vaccine when it's available. And above all, social distancing and mask up.
Indeed. Okay, Comrade Esele, 1 second, please. Let me, Mr. Kesandu, thank you very much for holding on. Go ahead now, please.
Okay, good morning, sir. The clarification was worth it, so no problem. I agree to my comrades.
Okay. They hear you.
The position of all people is that what is the COVID-19 pandemic? The position about that.
Mr. Kesandu, you got to turn down the volume of your TV set. You got to mute your TV set.
No. We have to
Network is bad.
Carry on, please. Okay. No. It's not better. It's not better, and it's very unusual calling from you. Maybe it's just the network today. We can't hear you today. Initially, I thought that you were, somebody might have been trying to listen to you on a TV set within the same room, but it doesn't seem that that's the case. So thank you very much, Comrade. Well, yeah, let me say Comrade Kesandu. Everybody that calls in today is a comrade. You know, the point that Comrade Esele was making about we owe it to ourselves to do everything we can to take care of ourselves, and by that same action, take care of those that are around us. It can't be overemphasized, because the one thing that we've seen is that government is not about to call lightly any other lockdown. People seem to be agreed on that. Government just doesn't have the wherewithal. You call a lockdown, you probably can't sustain it. Even the palliative that people are looking with envious eyes at the U.S. and all of those people that are putting out thousands of dollars to the people. We are not in a position to do that here. So government is not, I'm just guessing, is not going to call lightly another lockdown. We saw how that went. It didn't go very well at all. And so this also is a problem. How much of a problem do you think this is? Because, as I said, I'm guessing that government is not going to call a lockdown. So it then is left for us to do what we can in the labor force. And I don't know if we take that seriously enough.
Yeah, I think on the issue of some of the observation of COVID protocols, you know, like our leader, Comrade Peter Esele, rightly observed, you know, even before we organized the May Day celebration, we actually approached the Lagos State Safety Commission, you know, for guidance and all that, which they did. I think the problem we have is an attitudinal problem, you know.
That is with us as a people.
As a people, yeah. Because even we as TUC, because of the fact that we want to observe it, we actually did a face mask for all our affiliates, whatever, so that you put it on.
And so, can feel proud. You understand? That is part of your...
We did this and we gave people sanitizers. So the question now is implementation.
Yeah.
If you put on your own, and you can't be monitoring people and start forcing them to do this, because, you know, a lot of people just have to believe that, you know, like we said, it's new normal. People are not really used to always covering their faces, and some of them, probably they have health issue, they can't really close their nose or mouth for a long period of time. So we just have to, you know, but what I would suggest is, you know, we must keep talking about this.
Indeed.
We must keep talking about this.
Because a lot of people say that, and I'm happy that Comrade Esele there, you know, just dropped that bit in that, look, you might want to consider taking the vaccine. He has taken the vaccine. A lot of people have taken the vaccine, but nowhere near enough.
Yes.
Nowhere near enough people have taken that vaccine. I think the last time we had a figure, we're just slightly over 1 million. And here we are, a country of...
And I think on the issue of vaccine, I know personally from some of the engagements, you know, you have with people, a lot of people are skeptical about, and I think that's one area I think the government must do a lot of enlightenment.
And a lot of people actually also claim to have caught COVID, the COVID bug. They claim to have caught it and have recovered from it without resorting to any of the medicines coming in from Europe. I don't know how they do it, but there are also people who are saying that, look, and there was a time when we had to actually do an information binge explaining that getting COVID-19 is not necessarily a death sentence, you know. But now we're even going beyond that to those who are saying that I've actually caught this COVID before. I haven't vaccinated myself yet. I've actually caught COVID and I've sort of come out of it. So those kind of stories that are also going on all around are probably also confusing the issue. I guess the policy of NLC, of course, is that everybody should get the vaccine, right?
Everybody should be vaccinated, because we
if you can, yes.
At the level of TUC, Lagos State Council, you know, we strongly believe that vaccination is the key.
It is.
Because
we need a healthy workforce.
Definitely.
And that's one way to ensure that.
Yeah, and like you rightly observed too, you know, it's not enough. And even if you check the globalized world too, I think due to the demand, we presently have a situation whereby the demand is actually higher than supply. So it is a global issue, and I want to say that at the level of government, we should, you know, intensify our effort to ensure that, you know, we have more of these vaccines so that we can actually attain a situation whereby majority of the population would have been vaccinated. Because I think that's the only way you can continue to lower the COVID curve.
And that is something that Comrade Esele identifies with. Maybe last word to you, Comrade Esele. What we need is a healthy workforce and taking care of ourselves as much as we can in this emergency, this COVID-19 pandemic. It bears restating. People should, consider the vaccine, right?
Yeah. What I would advise is mask up, social distance, and please, if the vaccine is available and
it froze, but I want to thank you very much, Comrade Peter Esele, former president of Trade Union Congress, as well as former president of Pengazin. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Comrade, as indeed I also extend to you, Comrade Abiodun Aladiton, Secretary, TUC, Lagos State Council. Let me just add my voice to that of the labor leaders to say that if you haven't got the vaccine yet, you might want to consider taking it, getting the vaccine as well. The more people that are vaccinated, the better it is for those people, and also we are told for those who are around them as we continue to go from strength to strength in labor. Thank you once again, Comrade Aladiton. And again, Comrade Peter Esele, thank you very much for joining us this morning. So that's our program. We'll see you tomorrow, which you are going to be treating like Monday, even though today is Monday, but it's going to be your first day at work. I'm Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.